Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to work on a project that a friend of mine brought in. His name is Mike, and Mike likes to take care of his equipment, which is great. This is an International 965. He also brought me a beautiful looking 955. He always likes to keep his reels in darn near perfect condition, even though he fishes them quite a bit. And what he asked me to do today was to upgrade the Internationals to the Carbontex drag system. I don't know if he's having problems with the drags or he just wants to go down that route, but I thought I would show you how to do that today because, well, if I show you how to do that, I'm going to also show you how to service this reel completely. And if you have that reel, well, it might be of interest to you to just watch through this because we have to take that whole side plate apart to do the drag system. Alright, we're going to start by removing the cap, and we're going to take out that cap by removing the set screw for that. And then we can remove the nut, and interestingly enough, this nut is a US threaded 7/16 nut. So that comes off in the traditional counterclockwise manner. And while I'm doing this, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, hit that notification button because that's going to tell you when I post the videos. And well, if you're interested in that video that I'm doing that day, you can take a look at it. And if not, well, you'll just be kept aware of what I'm working on because I work on all kinds of different fishing reels. Alright, we removed the handle nut. We walked off the handle, and behind that, notice that there is a tension spring that goes between the handle and the star adjuster. Next up then, we walk the star adjuster back. And this is always interesting. Sometimes you get a little bit of something just getting caught in the threads of the gear shaft. So if you put a little bit of penetrating oil on there, as it walks off, it'll make it right for putting it back on. Underneath that star adjuster, there is a series of tension washers there as well. And with those pieces removed, we can come and remove the side plate. Now, the side plate is held on by 2 thumb screws, and generally if you just give that kind of a quarter turn, it'll loosen it enough that you can take the rest of these screws out using your fingers. I kind of like to do that. And I'm not sure on this one, it may be that we have to remove the 2 pivot screws as well. Nope, we can take that off as it is. Okay, so if you've got this reel and you're servicing it, you can do a couple of things. One of them that you want to do is you want to remove that spool, and I know the bearing's working because I've checked this already. You might want to check that bearing. Little oil there. You don't have to lube the idler gear. I do tend to put a drop of oil onto the inner wheel, which is going to turn the level line or line wide guide. I'm going to bring that line guide over to the side. Again, this is going to be as if you were servicing the reel in addition to just doing the swap out. When you have it over the side, you want to remove the pawl cap that's embedded in that line guide. The best way to do this is bring it over to the side because that way you got some clearance for your screwdriver. Once that's out, check the pawl. You want to make sure that the shoulders are free of dirt and debris, and that's the case here. The pawl is a cylinder. You can see how it's shaped with 2 metal prongs. A little drop of oil into the inside of that cap, and then we can go ahead and reinstall that. Well, this is always fun because my fingers are generally too big to do this efficiently. Sometimes you need a couple of them, right? While you do this, just make sure that you have the screw going in easily. If you find that there's a fight or there's any kind of tension involved with that, then what you want to do is reset. Okay, I don't have those teeth into the track of the worm gear. And how do I know that? Because I'm turning the worm gear and I'm feeling resistance. So just I'm going to do that a couple of times until we know that it's seated properly. Not yet. And if you move your worm gear and line guide and just keep backing off, backing on, eventually you will have those 2 tines going into the worm gear channel. And all you have to do to finish that lubrication then is simply to put some more oil onto the tracks. If those tracks were jammed up with dirt and debris, well, you could go ahead and run a paper towel across it as you're cranking the reel, and that would help to clean out the channel. This is the bane of my working on reels with line. That line sometimes gets trapped in the side plate. Just be careful as you do that. All right, well, we said we were going to do this to show you how to get the drag washers upgraded. So you want to remove the 2 screws that are on this case. There's one on each side. While I'm doing that, if you have any questions on fishing reel repair, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck. Maybe you have one that's stuck and you can't figure out why it's stuck. Or you just want some general information on fishing reels. If you leave that in the comments section of this video, I'll try to answer your questions for you. Your questions do not need to be about this particular reel. All right, there was those 2 screws. I've just taken them out. And like I've done with all my other pieces and parts, I'm putting them into a parts tray so I know where to find them when it's time to be installed. That parts tray is just the bottom of a fast food container. With those 2 screws out, we can get inside, and as much and as pretty as that outside is, well, we've got some work to do here, and I guess that's probably why he said go ahead and upgrade the drag washers while we're at it. First thing I like to do is take these yoke springs and get them off, because if you don't pay attention to it, most of the time that thing is going to come back to haunt you. Next up, then, we can remove the main gear and gear sleeve or gear spacer. This is the pieces that we want to upgrade. And I would say it was time for an upgrade for him, so I'm imagining that he's had this reel out fishing and he said, well, that drag's just not doing what it should be doing. And instead of replacing it with the originals, which are in nice condition, interestingly enough, the drags are in good condition. They're the HT100s. And the HT100 is actually Penn's version of a Carbontex reel. All right, well, those are out. I'm going to pull the yoke, and I think it's probably best to go remove the rest of this. So there's 2 springs that are holding in our free spool release. I'm surprised this isn't getting stuck on them. And while you do that, take a picture here so that you can see little things like the arm of this rests on the inside of this release here, and so on. And then I'm going to just grab the pliers and just remove the springs. Just like that. You should be able to push this down now. You will hit that little stop there. And most of the time you can raise that above the stop, push this the rest of the way down, and get the clearance you need to take that piece out. And if your springs come out, don't worry, you've taken a picture, you know how it goes. I'm going to remove those 2 springs right now because I've got to clean up that old grease. Alright, I'm going to use a penetrating oil to do that. I'm going to spray both the case and the piece. I'm going to use a cotton swab to get that old grease out of there. Same thing with inside the channel here, because that's where it will bog down. So clean all that up. And otherwise the reel looks like it's in pretty good condition. I'm going to take a fishing reel grease now. Just put a very light coating on the bottom of this, and a little bit of coating into the base here. Interesting, I haven't worked on one of these in a while. I got 4 of them in my shop in a day, so go figure. Just must be International Day at the with my customers. All right, let's just put this back in. Just flip it down, pull it up. Make sure it nests inside. Then we have the 2 springs that go on. And I'm going to hold that spring, so if I can't just kind of move it down with my fingers. It's not a very high tension spring, so you can do that. Then we've got the other side. We'll do the same. You want to locate it into the hole. Going to flip it back a little bit. Position the top over the, oops, that's out. Kind of hard to do some of these things with the camera there. But I try to do my best. There we go. So that's the reset on the springs. All right, next up then, we'll clean that yoke. Just going to use some steel wool to get the old grease off this. Light coat of grease on this, just on the shoulders here. Inspect your pinion gear. Make sure that it's clean. It's not chipped, or broken, or distorted. And then you can reinstall the pinion gear, and you can grease the pinion gear. Pinion gear goes on the post first, and the side with the ridges or indentation faces forward, so that's your pinion gear installed. All right. Next up then is this click ratchet. This is going to fire for the return of your free spool. It's got two flat sides to it. Make sure that you mount it so that it is firmly seated on the gear shaft. I have had these reels come in the past. Somebody had taken it apart and couldn't figure out why they couldn't turn the reel, and well, they didn't have that piece set properly down below. This is one of your washers. There's two more of your washers, and again, these are in good condition. It doesn't surprise me because it's Mike, but sometimes he's just looking for that little extra edge, and he said, I want the Carbontex, not the HT100s. I tried to explain to him that, well, you're not going to see much difference in performance. He wants to try anyway. All right, let's open up the pack then. There's two reels, that's why I have two packages in here. I get these from smoothdrag.com. They have all kinds of Carbontex washers, and if you're interested, they're a great service. You can look them up. It's an interesting kind of a website. You have to actually send a email to them, and then that enables you to connect with them, and they will be very responsive to you. All right, well, we saw the one with the big line is next. These have two different sides to it. It has a rough side and a thin side. I tend to put the rough side down so that it's got the most contact area. Then we're going to load the main gear on before we do anything. Well, we have three washers now. You have two are called keyed washers. They're round with kind of rectangular centers, and one that's called the eared washer. It has 2 points on it and a big round circle hole. The keyed washers go high and low in a 6-drag system, which is what this is, and the eared washer goes in between. All right, we started down, so we'll stay down with this one. This is where the eared washer comes in for number 2. And we have the last of the new washers, the last of the keyed washers, and the gear spacer, which goes up top. All right, the older ones are done now. We'll set them aside and give them back to Mike in case he wants to change back at some point in time. And all that's left in service really then is just cleaning out this case here, wiping down the anti-reverse. You don't oil that anti-reverse. Anti-reverses are friction driven. Oil takes away friction. Just clean it up, get the old grease out, and then we can remount. Center your piece to the, oops, see, there you go, 2 springs. I knew something wasn't right there. The 2 springs that you took out earlier that I was so afraid of losing, well, I almost reinstalled the wheel without them. Now we can do it. All right. Make sure that when you do that, you have a nice firm seating on the case. Then we have the 2 small screws. Okay, so we're just finishing up on the 2nd screw now. I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit because those of you that watch my videos know me and small screws, well, we just take a while to kind of get them right. At this point, you can give it a test, make sure it's turning nicely. It's certainly turning nicely without the drag. And we'll just complete the install then. So we have the star adjuster is next. There's 2 of these tension washers. They're beveled, concave or convex. Not sure which one it is. I guess one is concave and the other is convex, one side versus the other. Let's get that star adjuster on. It should go on nice and easy because we started with that penetrating oil. Lock it down. We have a little tension washer goes next. Have the handle. And we have the handle nut. Remember, that was an odd one. It was 7/16, so it's kind of surprised by that. Tighten that. Line up your cap. Tighten down the screw. Then we'll put it on the shaft here after we oil that bearing on a spool. And let's put it back and make sure everything's working. Well, the case went on nice and easy. You just heard that nice click. Kind of doing the reverse of how we got it out. Work it in with your fingers. And just use your screwdriver for that final little set. Let's give it a ride. So we're going to tighten down our drag system. All those new Carbontex washers are holding nice and tight. The wheel is operating very smoothly. You saw how we serviced the pawl, how we serviced the back end, oiled the bearings, took all of this apart, cleaned out the free spool. You want to make sure that's working. Nice click and return function there. Cleaned up all the rest of the old greases in there. Changed over to the Carbontex washers. And everything but oiling that little handle seam there. We'll take care of that. And that's it. That's your 965. That's how to upgrade to Carbontex washers, or simply replace the washers you have with likes, which we took out of this one, and the HT100s. That's how to keep this wheel running for a long time to come. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it on the video. Again, please subscribe if you like these kinds of videos. And to all who are first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything that it is that you do. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.